Ever stop and think about why some industries are just packed with companies, while others have only a couple of big players calling all the shots? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into in this explainer. Seriously, think about it for a second. Coffee shops, right? You've probably got, a dozen choices just around the corner. But what about your mobile network or even your main supermarket? Suddenly that list gets real short, real fast. So what gives? Okay, to get to the bottom of this, we've got to start with the basics. What even is a market? And it's not just a building with a sign on it. Nope, it's basically any place, physical or, online, where buyers and sellers meet up to do business. The stock market, your local farmer's market, yep, they're all markets. And that's the key. The whole reason the coffee market feels so different from the mobile network market, it all comes down to this thing called market structure. You can think of it as the rule book for how a market is organized. And it's a big deal because it basically controls everything, from the prices you pay to the options you get. So the easiest way to wrap your head around these structures, picture a spectrum, a competition spectrum. On one end, you've got total, all-out competition. And on the other, absolute zero. We're going to take a little journey from one end to the other. All right, so here's the game plan. We're starting at maximum competition, or what the experts call perfect competition. From there, we'll hop over to monopolistic competition, then oligopoly, and we'll finish up at the complete opposite end. No competition, a monopoly. But first things first, let's look at those two extremes. Yeah, by getting a handle on the two polar opposites first, everything in between, where most actual businesses operate, is going to make a whole lot more sense. Okay, way over on one end of our spectrum, you've got perfect competition. Now, full disclosure, this is mostly a textbook idea, but it's super important for understanding the rest. Just picture it, a market with tons of little companies all selling the exact same thing. Think about farmers selling wheat. One farmer can't just jack up their price, right? Because you just go to the next farm over. They have zero control. They're what we call price takers. They just have to take whatever the market price is. And it's easy for new people to jump in because you don't need some massive billion-dollar setup to start growing wheat. All right, now let's slingshot all the way to the other side, the monopoly. Here, it's just one company, one. The product they sell is completely unique, and since you can't get it anywhere else, that one company has total control over the price. They're a price maker. Think about your water company. Could someone else just start up a rival water company? The cost of laying all those new pipes would be astronomical. It's what's called a massive barrier to entry, and it's why they're the only game in town. So you see the difference, right? It's night and day. On one side, tons of companies with zero power. On the other, one company with all the power. It's a perfect illustration of how the amount of competition literally changes the entire game. Okay, so those are the two extremes, but let's be real, most of the businesses you and I deal with every single day lives somewhere in that middle ground. So let's zoom in on our spectrum and check out the places we know best. First up, monopolistic competition. Yeah, the name sounds a bit complicated, but I promise you, you know this one inside and out. There are still lots of companies, but here's the twist. Their products are all a little bit different. Think about restaurants. They're all selling food, sure, but one is Italian, one has great ambiance, another has amazing service. That's called product differentiation. And that little bit of uniqueness, it gives them a tiny bit of power to set their own prices. Moving on, we get to the oligopoly. Now, this is where things get interesting. This is a market run by just a handful of huge companies. And ding, 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 this is the answer to our question from the very beginning. The big supermarkets, your mobile phone provider, these are classic oligopolies. The magic word here is interdependence. In an oligopoly, these big firms are basically in a high-stakes chess match with each other. They're watching every single move. If one mobile network suddenly drops its prices, you can bet the others are going to react, and fast, or they'll lose a ton of customers. It's why you see them competing so hard on stuff like advertising and loyalty cards, instead of just constantly slashing prices. So, we've traveled across our whole spectrum. But what's the big takeaway? Why should you care? Well, it matters a lot, because the structure of a market directly hits you, the consumer, right in the wallet. It affects the prices you pay, the choices you get, and even the quality of the stuff you buy. And this chart, it lays it all out perfectly. You can literally see the journey right here. As you go down the list, look what happens. The number of firms shrinks from many down to just one. And at the same time, the ease of entry for new businesses goes from easy to forget about it. This simple little grid is basically your cheat sheet for understanding how almost any industry works. Now, of course, these market structures aren't just the Wild West. Governments definitely have a say. To protect us, the consumers, they step in. Here in the UK, the main referee on the field is the Competition and Markets Authority, the CMA. Think of them as the market police. They're the ones who check out big company mergers to make sure they don't create a monster monopoly, and they keep an eye on those oligopolies to make sure they're not secretly working together to fix prices. It's all about trying to keep the game fair. And here's a really important point. These structures aren't set in stone. They can and do change over time. Take the UK energy market. It used to be a textbook oligopoly, run by a few big players. But then, policy changes and new tech like smart meters came along and totally shook things up, letting smaller, newer companies get in on the action. It's a perfect example of how technology and government rules can completely redraw the map of an industry. And that all leads us to one last, really big question for the future. We tend to think of the internet as this amazing force for competition, right? It lets tiny businesses reach the whole world. But when you look at how a few massive tech companies now dominate things like search, social media, and online shopping, you have to wonder, is the internet actually creating more competition, or is it building a new generation of super powerful monopolies? Something to chew on the next time you're scrolling. Thanks for tuning in.